What's the best anime of 2026 so far? After an insane season packed with big names, this question is way harder to answer than it seems. That's why I'm bringing you a wide tier list, where your favorite anime might actually be overrated, and the actual best of the season is not that easy to predict. Seibaa! Oshi no Ko 3 is the calm before the storm. Between people trying to get away with murder, broken hearts, and scandals as awful as this channel, the third season feels like the last one with some actual quality consensus among fans. Because after this, it turns into a civil war between the ones prepping memes about the series and those who look at the ending and go,
and I've got to say, in all honesty, it's the biggest piece of dog shit.
S tier. Hell's Paradise came back as bloodthirsty as ever and showing off some new stuff for the audience, like its educational side, since the anime keeps pausing the story to give lectures about the power system. But you also get new sides of the characters, like the presence of less one-dimensional villains and a Captain Hook who scratched his eye with the wrong hand. Good thing this arc also brings more cool fights to keep us entertained, and if that's not enough, it feels like there are even more naked people this time around. A tier. Funny enough, there's another action anime with people without clothes for us to talk about later, because before that, the Invisible Man and his soon-to-be wife is a cute romance in a world that's all about inclusion. Here, everyone is different from one another, but every successful couple complements each other. That's why we see a flat girl and a thick guy, a fat guy and a skinny one, a white chick and a guy who's really into white chicks. Plus, the anime shows us a simple yet well-developed world following the routine of a detective agency that switches between investigating infidelity and beating the crap out of thugs. The only thing really missing to reach Sherlock's level is using his signature move, A tier. But you don't need to be the world's greatest detective to figure out that You and I Are Polar Opposites is coming in strong for best romance of the year. It just has this contagious energy, showing the everyday qualities and worries of a new relationship in youth. Not to mention how that energy spreads through the whole cast, so it's not uncommon to like the side characters as much as, or even more than the main couple. Just be careful if you've got low tolerance for Summer slang, because other than that, there's no reason to keep this anime out of S tier. While an anime that starts with the letter S, but needs to stay far away from that spot, is Stargaze, Trigun Stargaze. And look, the 3D animation is actually a positive for this remake, because everything else, check out the openings to understand part of the problem. The original has the charm of an erratic gunslinger from the future West. The first one from the remake brings a more serious vibe to this lone wolf. And now, feels like a TikToker hacked the production. I'm not even the biggest fan of the original, but with changed characters, story, and overall vibe, this doesn't really feel like Trigun anymore, and this new thing they made isn't that great either. C tier. Now, more disturbing than a mid-anime are the sick game scene in Shiboyugi, where girls play deadly games to pay the bills and the atmosphere reminds me of someone floating in a pool. But maybe that's really just me. I don't know. The thing is, this series is really good when it dives into the character's psyche in these life or death situations, or when it takes advantage of its excellent direction in the quieter moments. Because when there's time for the action scenes, it's clear the production struggles. In those cases, instead of watching girls who look like dolls throwing hands, it'd be better to just watch Andy playing with his toys, and that's why Shiboyugi lands in A tier. Leaving that deranged world behind, My Hero Academia Vigilantes shows us a much more optimistic story, or a boring one, depending on your point of view. I like how this spin-off brings a different approach to this iconic universe and still throws in Dragon Ball references, but the narrative in the second season feels kinda aimless. If I were judging just the amazing cameos, and especially Midnight in her prime, this would be really high up, but as a whole, this is a solid anime that sits in B tier. Fate Strange Fake already got a special and totally unbiased video here on the channel, and if you watched it, you probably agree this is a contender for best anime in the world or in the whole universe really. If not that, it might be the best battle royale anime out there, since it manages to give attention to so many side stories amid a war of mages and heroes who have a few screws loose. Not to mention the excellent animation that delivers awesome fights and keeps the anime in the tier absolute. But hold up a minute, this anime isn't adapting the original novel properly. They cut a ton of stuff and messed up the whole story. Oh. So it's D tier, for diabolically good. Just like your top tier for watching the video this far. So go ahead and drop a like, hype the content, and subscribe with the bell on to help the channel hit 200 subs. Back to Romance Land, Mayonaka Heartune kicks off a war to decide which girl is the best in this show. But while the plebs fight over those crumbs, I, an intellectual, pick the protagonist just because it's not as generic as they are. At first, the story has an interesting premise and seems self-aware of its cliches. But then, the mysteries aren't that mysterious and the narrative just rolls with a formula that doesn't impress enough to to pull the anime out of B tier. If you're looking for a superior and out of the ordinary romance, how about a story set in England? Here, we see the relationship between an Asian girl and an English noble, the guy being the second son of the family who doesn't want to get involved in aristocratic drama. Still, amid balls and paintings, the two protagonists manage to understand each other and deliver yet another solid season of Bridgerton. What? Did someone think I was talking about a great romance anime called Love Through a Prism? This is actually about the 4th season of Bridgerton, because at least Netflix promotes that one.
Stop acting tough and tell me the truth!
I missed the part where that's my problem.
A tier. And speaking of Netflix anime, Cosmic Princess Kaguya seems to have been treated a bit less badly by the red streaming than the previous series. With impeccable production, this project delivers a ton of fun, especially for those who like platonic girl relationships or that whole Vocaloid thing, which I honestly don't get very well. So for me, it also lands in A tier. This might sound like music straight out of High School Musical, or I don't know, another Peacemaker opening, but it's actually just the new opening for Medalist. In this season, the main duo's drama stays excellent, and we still get unexpected surprises, like the inspiring reveal of what made the protagonist fall in love with figure skating in the first place. But the biggest feeling left is the happiness of seeing young kids who worked so hard reaping the rewards of their effort. Is this something like paternal pride, or just that joy of watching dogos in an agility competition? I mean, look at them, they seem to be having so much fun. A tier. That same fun isn't shared by the characters in Gnosia, which was a pleasant surprise last year. It starts as an Among Us with buff-up designs, but over time reveals itself as a solid sci-fi time travel story with a charismatic cast and only one real competition, the one to see if the protagonist can suffer as much from time loops as our boy Okabe from Steins Gate. Either way, this anime has a satisfying conclusion, and in the end, it's all Steins Gate choice anyway. L. Psy. Congru. A tier. After that little mental detour, we still have super popular anime to rank, but before them, you need to know about the mess called the Darwin Incident. And that's a compliment, okay? If there's one thing you can't call this anime, it's generic. The protagonist is an ape man, I mean, a human Z, who just wanted to live a chill life. The problem is, he ends up forced to our farm and face off against a group of eco-terrorists fighting for animal rights. From there, we get a story where characters stop to give philosophy lectures or defend their extremist ideologies, which gives the series a comedic aspect like it's a parody. I don't even know if that's the intention, but it results in chaos with zero subtlety. The thing is, I find it bizarrely fun to watch, and that's why I put it in A tier. If you're looking for subtlety, then the anime for you is Journey with Witch, a rare drama for its ability to immerse you in the lives of its characters. In it, it's like you're eavesdropping on these people trying to process grief, motherhood, growth, and so on. This thing is so good and grounded that I can't even make jokes about it right now. Just admire its quality and leave it in the highest tier of today. Absolute anime. But a lot of people out there don't want refined cuisine. They prefer a solid hot dog or Big Mac, which is basically the equivalent of something like Chain Soldier. That is, if those food went around stripping like in Sausage Party. Anyway, putting that disturbing memory aside, this anime boils down to action and pretty mid-story with some spicy scenes scattered here and there. So I can't be irresponsible and put it in a high tier just because there's a MILF this season. But for some reason, I can't stop my mouse. It's moving on its own and wants to put the anime in absolute B. Sentenced to be a Hero started as the most hyped new anime of the season, and for many, it could be another great name in the fantasy genre. But now, it seems the hype has died down, which is ironic when its final stretch is the most interesting part in my opinion. Most people praise the excellent fluid action of the series, but I think it's important to point out the reasons why the story is really good too. Okay, the truth is that for me, this story is kinda... since it doesn't really have much direction at the start, and also doesn't bother developing its characters. Things do get more interesting when we meet recurring villains who seem part of a bigger narrative, or when we see more members of the hero group, be it their charismatic mascot or the guy who was forced to watch a Boku no Pico marathon. I also can't forget the Holy Knight girl who, for some reason, left me with a good impression.
You're pathetic. Alright, who's next in line?
Me!
A tier. And when we talk about fantasy, you can't leave Frieren out of the conversation. This time, the anime feels a bit less sharp than the first season, but I think a big part of that comes from the smaller amount of episodes, limiting the variety shown on screen. Other than that, the main story can be slow, but the exploration of characters and the world remains super rich and done in the finest details. The only thing I can defend is how these two still aren't together, or Frieren's unacceptable behavior that turned her into a criminal, because she stole our hearts. Just kidding, I know she's a con artist. S tier. Yeah, if you thought the absolute anime sticker is a free pass to the top tier, then this season of Frieren might be disappointing. Good thing Jujutsu Kaisen is the kind of work that never disappoints the fans, right? No matter their complaints, I feel like this season manages to deliver quality action and above all, a standout direction especially for the non-combat moments. But that's not necessarily a positive, since we have Maki fighting like she's in the Old West, or scenes that are more worried about the animation technique than the narrative. And I'm not even talking about the Bible turning your face before the arc actually starts. Even so, this artistic approach works for me most of the time, and everything feels like a great appetizer before things get crazy in the next part. Not as crazy as this avocado at law, but enough to land in S tier, because in the end, this season makes up for it with iconic and satisfying moments.
Alright, who's next in line?
Me!
Now I wanna know, what was your favorite anime of this season? Drop it in the comments, and with that said, I'm Sid from the Seibaa TV channel, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.